What up, friendos? Welcome back. If I look or sound terrible, both probably, then it's probably because that's exactly how I feel. I went out for my dad's work party, which obviously I don't work there. I haven't done for about 10 years. But I knew a lot of people who still work there. So I went out with them for a few drinks on Saturday. Last Saturday, so like 6 days ago. And man, when I woke up on Sunday morning, I don't know what I caught, but it's been real rough. So aside from waking up and playing countless hours of Path of Exile repeatedly, I've been in bed mostly and just feel terrible. But here we go. We're going to talk about Dauntless, because why not? It's another one of those games that's just tried their very best to speedrun their own failure. This is not uncommon. It's a story as old as time with these game developers nowadays. They have a game that's, it's a good idea. It's not necessarily the best executed, but a lot of people like it. It's successful, for a while. It's not taking the world by storm, but obviously it's covering their operating costs. It's allowing for them to, continue to try and make the game better, to try and get more market share. And they were doing all of that while never being on Steam. And if you don't know what Dauntless is, basically this is the Western answer for Monster Hunter, which is not a bad idea, to be honest, because, if you look how popular Monster Hunter is, there's no Western counterpart, which made way more sense to be a big deal when Monster Hunter games used to be on console, on handhelds, and not really come to the West very quickly, or maybe you don't want to play on handhelds. And also, why, if there's such a love for this genre, would somebody not try to make a competitor? And they did it as best as they could. I guess they sold Founders Packs originally. That's when I used to play years and years ago. And then obviously the game was free to play, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad game. I think it was limited when you compare it to Monster Hunter, and probably lacked a little bit that soul that makes Monster Hunter what it is. And maybe what makes most people gravitate towards Monster Hunter, as opposed to Dauntless, which does kind of feel almost as if the meme, Mom, can we have Monster Hunter? No, son, we've got Monster Hunter at home, and this is Monster Hunter at home. Which isn't the worst thing in the world. It is what it is. Some people definitely enjoyed it. But they had moderate success without ever launching on Steam, which, if you watch the video that probably released just before this one, where I'm talking about X-Defiant, the Ubisoft game that they just closed down, launching a live service game and then not having it on Steam kind of is... It's just really silly, because Steam's where the majority of people are going to play a game. So if you have moderate success and you're not on the most popular digital distribution platform for video games on PC, maybe in the world, then you could be doing way better if you did release on Steam. Whatever reason that made it so they didn't, they decided to just spin their wheels, constantly update the game. Maybe they were trying to get it into a better place before they released it to Steam, and hope that this was like the big coming out party, like, oh, Dauntless is here now, guys, this is amazing, we're going to get loads of players. Well, whatever the reason was that they waited for so long, 5+ years I think it is at this stage, it's obviously not gone very well, has it? Because the game is overwhelmingly negative, with 14% of the 1,197 reviews being positive. Now, we'll just say, because I'm trying to, be totally fair here, the majority of these reviews are going to be review bombs. Not to say that means that they're without merit, but just to say that people are using the review system to voice their displeasure at not what the game currently is, but what the game isn't, which is what they wanted it to be, what it was before this big update. Because what they did was, with the launch of Dauntless on Steam, they released this new big overwhelming update called Awakening. And they've done the classic, which is to change so much stuff that there's one cardinal sin you can't do as a game developer, and that is to take things away from people. I understand if you want to be more successful, but at the same time, you can't stray from what you were previously to get that success as a video game. If you've already got, let's say, a ball of players here that play your game every day, that have been playing for 5 years, that they're your core audience, and then you take stuff away from them to try and get people who don't play your game, maybe you can say you admire the gamble, the balls on doing that. And maybe if your company's going to go under, if you're not doing very well financially, then it makes sense to make that type of gamble. But it can backfire very quickly, and this is evidence of that, because this update is, by and large, by all metrics from what I can tell, really fucking shit. And that's why people are review bombing it. So they basically fucked off their core audience, which have been playing for so long and paying their bills, to try and get an audience that maybe exists but probably doesn't. And as we're going to see here, it's not really worked out very well, has it? Because when they're going for this new audience, you'd hope that all these changes would make the new audience stick around. And, well, they haven't, have they? Because their play base had halved within a day, and within 1 week of the game being out, there's 10% of the players that have tried the game. So you can say, because the game's still playable on Epic, most of the people playing on Steam now are new people. And I've seen a bunch of, I'm going to call them bootlickers, but some people use the word fan, interchangeable for me most of the time when talking about video games and almost anything, actually. You can see a lot of bootlickers online saying, oh, the update's actually good and the game feels more populated than it has done in the last 2 years. Bear in mind, the last 2 years, they basically didn't get any updates, so it's mostly people coming back to try it out before they realise they don't like it and stop playing. But then when people point out, but look at the Steam numbers, the Steam numbers have gone down so quickly, obviously this is bad. And a lot of these bootlickers are saying things like, oh, but they're just new players. And it's like, okay, so the defense of this is only the new people who we needed and literally did this update for quit. So that's okay then. Obviously not. The game's fucked at this stage unless they do something about it. And spoiler alert, they're not going to, because this is another classic case of game developers just never being able to admit when they're wrong and basically trying to speedrun this game into fucking obscurity. So they released a letter to the Dauntless community where they talk about this stuff and basically justify what they've done, and also say that they're going to make some changes here and there, which is fine, yeah. What else can you do other than revert the update, which we'll get to in a minute. One of the issues with what they've done with the game is kind of like what's happened with games like Destiny repeatedly, which is the game goes from point A to point D, and then they release a new update and they remove fucking maybe B and C, and then you overall have less content in the game, or maybe you get new content but they remove stuff you paid for before. And this is what they've done here. They've removed a bunch of stuff people had, removed systems, removed weapons, progression from people's accounts, basically, all in the favor of trying to do these new things, which again, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're failing, understandably, sometimes you have to make sweeping changes to try and claw back some kind of population before your game dies. But they've also done so in a predatory monetization fashion, which is to put weapons and therefore power or things you want to play with, new content, behind a battle pass, which again, it's a free-to-play game. You can argue it's, the free-to-play is a trial and paying for the battle pass is really getting the game. But when you go from, oh, you can do all the stuff in the game free-to-play to, we'll just lock in shit behind the paywall now, while also taking stuff away from you and things, it's kind of the fucking double bollock punch, right? They're punching you in both testicles at the same time. And then obviously they've added loot boxes, which I do love the justification here where they basically say, oh, they're only cosmetic, so that's okay. Most games nowadays are moving away from loot boxes for a couple of reasons. One, it's basically being outlawed in the EU to do it. It's gonna probably continue to go in that way until you can't have them in video games for obvious reasons. I think we're all aware now of the negative impact on people's lives by gambling in video games. You can make an argument that, for example, and I don't disagree, that adults should be able to do what they want to do, and this is not really a game's problem. But at the same time, kids play games, young adults and things like that, and introducing them to stuff like this in a way that is kind of softball. It doesn't feel immediately maybe in their brain that it's gambling, but it definitely still has the same pulls and negative impacts. I don't think it's good, especially in a game like this, especially when it never had them, and then they're just like, oh, here's loot boxes now. It's just bad. It's a bad overall look, and I think it's something people shouldn't be doing in development in 2024, especially when obviously you've just added other ways to monetize your player base. It's just, again, it's a triple whammy this time. Maybe you're getting 3 people punching your nutsack. You've ran out of nuts for this one. And then they basically just go over what they're going to do next and blah, blah, blah. And one of the funny things is that a lot of people are calling for them to revert the changes, to revert the patch, which is obviously not going to happen. No game developer is going to put potentially years of development into a patch and then just fucking wipe it out, click of a button. I don't even know if feasibly they could. But this is obviously what people are saying. They've come out and outright said, we're not going to do that. It's not being reverted. So that's not going to happen. So basically, you've got 2 choices. Stick with it and hope that they fix the game and that it gets back to being what you enjoyed. Because obviously, if you're a new player, you don't exist now. You played this. You've decided within a day, within 6 days, that the game isn't for you. You've left. And now basically they're losing older players, and if you're one of those people, and you'll just be waiting for hopefully them to fix it, or you quit. They're really your 2 choices. That's all you can do with stuff like this. And it kind of sucks because you are the only person that can hold this company accountable by not playing the game. And what happens when you hold them accountable by not playing the game is eventually the game stops existing, which sucks for you. It sucks for the people that work there because this is probably not mostly their choice. Because last year, they were purchased by a blockchain company, because it always comes full circle on this channel. It doesn't matter if we're talking about fucking crayons. Maybe Crayola are going to be bought by an NFT hawking dogshit company one day. And we'll be talking about that. But it all comes full circle back to cryptocurrency. It always does. And this company was purchased for whatever reason. Who knows why? I guess with the new monetization now we know why. By a blockchain company who just decided to lay off a bunch of people, cancel a project they've been working on for years, and then do this, basically ruin a game that they bought. I don't know what the fucking plan is specifically, other than to piss money up the wall, but crypto people are really good at doing that. So there you go, I guess. There's a Google Doc here that goes over all the problems. You know, one of the most significant changes is resetting weapon progression. Players who had spent countless hours grinding for specific weapons and upgrades found their progress wiped out, returning them to start from scratch. This has left many feeling demotivated and resentful. Monetization changes introduced several changes to the game's monetization model, including the addition of loot boxes and a more aggressive battle pass system. These have been perceived as predatory and exploitative as they push players to spend real money to obtain in-game items and progress. Balance patches, reduced build variety. They've essentially just made the game worse, and that's how it is. What we have here is an article on Games Radar, which is basically quoting an ex-Dauntless developer talking about the game, basically saying they've forsaken the player base here, that this person used to work there, was one of the original people that came up with Dauntless as a game idea, what it was supposed to be, and now they're basically just fucking it to death into the ground. And also specifically talks about, in this article, when the blockchain company bought this studio, as you can read here, they literally told people the developers didn't even realize that they were being bought. Phoenix Labs staff were reportedly barred from sharing the news and evidently only learned of the acquisition after signing some paperwork. So imagine you've just been working at this company for years. You're working on a new project. Somebody comes in and just says, oh, yeah, you've got to sign this paperwork. For what? What's going on? I can't tell you till you've signed it. Sign it. We've just been bought by fucking Blockchain R Us. And by the way, half of you are fired. And that thing you've been working on for years, well, that's fucking gone now. It just... something about this doesn't make a lot of sense. But either way, this is it, I guess. This is the end of Dauntless. It'll go into the night softly, quietly with a whimper because, again, it had been rotting away on Epic Games for so many years. It's just interesting how this was the push to come to Steam. Like, they've decided this is the time, this is the update. And not only have they not managed to capture a new audience from launching on Steam, even though if you'd assume at this stage of development with so long, they'd at least be able to keep some people around, but they've also fucked off their core audience to do so. So they have quite literally just destroyed their own game. It might seem a bit hyperbolic because he's not closed down yet. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe they can pull this back from the brink. But as it looks at this stage, overwhelmingly negative. No players sticking around. It's definitely not good. And they've specifically said we're not going to revert. So, yeah, that's Dauntless. Obviously, I don't want games to close down that people enjoy. But at the same time, again, you do have to hold companies accountable for the decisions that they make. And the only way you can do that is to not spend money, to not play the game that you enjoy, which sucks. But if not, you do kind of just basically turn into one of those people that's angry about something and yet perpetuating its existence. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But there we have it. Thanks for watching as always. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'm going to go probably play a little bit more Path of Exile 2 and then go to bed. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, click the links in the video description. There's Patreon, gamer subs if you want to buy some waifu cups and some gamer juice. And yeah, social media if you want to suggest me topics to discuss on the channel, Discord, Twitter, all things like that. And I'll see you next time. Peace.